好，大家好，这里是 Coco 了。那今天我们聊一下以色列的寻呼机和对讲机袭击事件涉及的这个国际法律。那因为要让朋友搬运去外网的人兑现便金，那所以用的是这个英文录制，但是接下来呢会有双语字幕啊，请放心使用。Okay, today I want to discuss whether Israel's attack on pagers and walkie-talkies in Lebanon constitutes an indiscriminate attack and the international laws behind this attack. So first, let's recap this event. Well, since Israel has been conducting attacks almost daily, and you might not be sure which strike I'm referring to. So on September the 17th, 2024, Israel launched an attack on Hezbollah in Lebanon, so causing thousands of pagers to explode simultaneously. So the next day, hundreds of walkie-talkies also exploded within a short period. So these two attacks resulted in the death of 42 individuals, so including at least 12 civilians and 2 children, and over 3,500 people were injured in the attack. Given the current situation between Israel and Hezbollah, a key point to note is that the two parties are not in a state of war as defined under law of war, but rather in a non-international armed conflict. However, this does not mean that the law of war is irrelevant. Many of its principles and provisions are still applicable to various forms of armed conflict through international treaties and practice. Now, I will analyze Israel's potential violations of international law based on several key international conventions while considering the specifics of this attack. So when discussing the nature of this attack, the first thing that comes to mind is Geneva Conventions. So according to the International Committee of the Red Cross, these conventions contain the most important rules limiting the barbarity of war. With 193 state parties, it's one of the most influential international humanitarian laws. Yes, Israel is a participant of Geneva Conventions. While under international law, legitimate military targets in war and conflict only include combatants and military installations, bases, and objects directly connected to military operations. Article 51 of Protocol 1 of Geneva Conventions explicitly outlines key rules for the protection of civilians, so which forms the basis of the principle of distinction in law of war. Geneva Conventions state the civilian population and individual civilians shall enjoy general protection against dangers arising from military operations, and shall not be the object of attack. Based on the outcome of this attack, 12 civilians were killed, and according to existing video footage, so the explosions occurred in various ordinary civilian settings. This is not a case of civilians wandering into the military base and becoming collateral victims. From the means employed, we can further conclude that this strike constitutes a grave violation of Geneva Conventions, particularly Article 51, subsection 4 and 5, which refer to indiscriminate attack. By definition, indiscriminate attacks are those which are not directed at a specific military objective, and those which employ a method or means of combat which cannot be directed at a specific military objective. Consequently, in each other case, are of a nature to strike military objectives and civilians or civilian objects without distinction. Among others, the following types of attacks are to be considered as indiscriminate attack. An attack by bombardment by any methods or means which treats as a single military objective a number of clearly separated and distinct military objectives located in a city, town, village, or other area containing a similar concentration of civilians or civilian objects, and an attack which may be expected to cause incidental loss of civilian life, injury to civilians, damage to civilian objects, or a combination thereof, which would be excessive in relation to the concrete and direct military advantage anticipated. The Israeli military claims this was a targeted strike, with note that they wouldn't admit it as an indiscriminate attack. However, according to the definition under Geneva Conventions, so this attack clearly falls under the category of using a method or means of combat which cannot be directed at a specific military objective. So Israel had no control over exactly who was using these pages and walkie-talkies. Moreover, the attack resulted in existential loss far beyond the principle of proportionality. The principle of proportionality, along with the principle of distinction, is one of the most important principles in the law of war. So it states that the harm caused by the military operation must be proportionate to the expected military advantage and must not cause excessive damage or loss to civilian and civilian objects. So the international community often refers to a few benchmarks such as the non-combatant casualty value and the civilian casualty ratio. No specific percentage has ever been universally agreed upon for what constitutes excessive. So it's up to you to make your own moral judgment. Let me give you an example. So on a certain day, the Chinese military decides to wage war against Wakanda for its vibranium resources. The Chinese military develops a strike plan that guarantees the elimination of General Okoye. But the attack will result in the death of 30 Wakandan civilians. So do you think this plan is cruel? Think about it. It does seem cruel, right? Okay, let's tweak it a bit. But this time, the Chinese military targets Princess Shuri, so the scientist, planning the massive explosion at a party. So they are confident Princess Shuri will be killed, but there are 300 civilians at a party who will also die. Does this plan now seem even more brutal? No need to worry, the Chinese military would never commit such atrocities. It's just a joke. Because in 2003, when the US Army invaded Iraq, the NCV for high-value targets was set at 30. In other words, if the US Army were invading Wakanda, they'd be willing to trade the lives of 30 Wakandan civilians for General Okoye. So the US Army is, of course, deeply committed to international humanitarianism, but just made of NCV of 30. Well, in comparison, Israel authorized the killing of approximately 300 civilians in an airstrike on the Arab Bridge, the refugee camp on October the 17th, 2023, in an attempt to assassinate Ayman Nofal, the commander of Hamas Central Gaza Brigade, based on an imprecise location. So with a civilian casualty rate of 28.5% in this recent attack, by Israeli standards, well, they really did go easy this time. Israeli standards. Haha. Okay, next, let's discuss the attack method Israel used. And compared to previous or subsequent bombing attacks, this time Israel chose an extremely malicious means of attack. According to Protocol 2 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons regarding booby traps, Israel is also a high contracting party to both the convention and its corresponding protocols. So do you know what a booby trap is? According to the definition, a booby trap means any device or material which is designed, constructed, or adapted to kill or injure, and which functions unexpectedly when a person disturbs or approaches an apparently harmless object or an apparently safe act. A dictionary. So it's prohibited to use booby traps or other devices in the form of apparently harmless portable objects, which are specifically designed and constructed to contain explosive material. Bingo! Israel's use of booby traps once again severely undermines humanitarian standards in modern armed conflict, rising global awareness of the need for greater security concerning devices. But since this event, I've been telling my colleagues that we should build a new ESG, where S stands for security. So we're going to talk about international reactions. And first, let's look at the US press release. Exploding pages and radios, a terrifying violation of international law, say UN experts. But experts stated that such attack could constitute war crimes of murder, attacking civilians, and launching indiscriminate attacks. A human rights lawyer interviewed by Al Jazeera Alaf said the attack, in fact, meets the textbook definition of state terrorism. In another report, former CIA Director Leon Panetta stated in an interview, "I don't think there is any question that it's a form of terrorism." And Belgium's Deputy Prime Minister Petra de Sutter also condemned Israel on X. And Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister Michael Martin commented that the explosions in Lebanon and Syria demonstrated a blatant disregard for civilian life. If you take a look at the response from the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, so their stance has remained consistent since October the 7th. So you will understand what it means to be a responsible nation. As I was writing the ending for this video, I took a glance at the latest news. At least 558 people, including 50 children, have been killed and 875 wounded in Israel's fierce bombardment of various parts of Lebanon. What can I say? Thank you all for watching.